kept taking it away. Anyways, guys, any Marvel or DC fans? Who are some of your favorite? Wonder Woman, okay. Who else? You guys know, who are your favorite superheroes? Wolverine? Is that one? Yes. Deadpool, okay. Star Wars? Sure, why not? I say why not. Well, two of my favorites, I would have to say, are Captain America. Who likes Captain America? Yeah, okay, but it's a really close tie. Captain America has been my favorite since I was little. It's a close tie with Black Panther. Anyone like Black Panther? I love that movie. It's so good. And to be honest, I never heard of Black Panther before. I think he was like first introduced in an Avenger movie or Captain America movie, something like that. What is it? Civil War, Captain America Civil War. That's where he was first, where we first see this character. And then I didn't really care about it because I was like, I don't really know. Right, exactly. So I didn't really care about this superhero because I didn't understand him until I watched the movie and I was like, this movie is incredible. It is so good because he just has such a cool backstory of where he comes from and how he gets his power from vibranium. But does anyone know where the Black Panther's home was? Wakanda. Nice. Wakanda forever. That's right. All right, take a look at this clip. We're going to watch this clip that shows the story of Wakanda and how the Black Panther came to be. So,
Baba?
Yeah, we're going to watch it really quick.
Tell me a story.
Which one?
The story of home.
Millions of years ago, a meteorite made of vibranium, the strongest substance in the universe, struck the continent of Africa, affecting the plant life around it. And when the time of men came, 5 tribes settled on it and called it Wakanda. The tribes lived in constant war with each other until a warrior shaman received a vision from the panther goddess Bast, who led him to the heart-shaped herb, a plant that granted him superhuman strength, speed, and instincts. The warrior became king and the first Black Panther, the protector of Wakanda. 4 tribes agreed to live under the king's rule, but the Jabari tribe isolated themselves in the mountains. The Wakandans used vibranium to develop technology more advanced than any other nation. But as Wakanda thrived, the world around it descended further into chaos. To keep vibranium safe, the Wakandans vowed to hide in plain sight, keeping the truth of their power from the outside world.
It was beautiful, I know. So, like I said, before I saw this movie, I didn't know a thing about this superhero character. Shh, bring it back, thank you. And what I think is so great about this movie and why it's one of my favorites is because that's the opening scene. It tells you the backstory of this character, how Wakanda came to be, how he got his superpower by the vibranium, right? It's by the vibranium, right? Okay. You're right. Okay, you're right. Vibranium is part of Wakanda. But anyways, I think that the opening scene, telling the full story of how I just spit everywhere. I felt like I needed to say that. Anyways, I think it's so good because the writers were like, if people are going to understand this character, we have to give them a story of where he comes from, how Wakanda came to be, how he got his superpowers, right at the beginning as they open the movie. And I think the same is true for us. Just think about how many people we think we know. We just make these assumptions about. So people who we go to school with, our teammates, our teachers, our coaches, even people here, right in this room, at church. We might feel confident that we know the stories of some of these people just because we know a few things about them. Like, we know their name, we know what they're good at, we know what sport they play, what they're into when it comes to clothes or friends or music. And so we think we have this full picture of the person because of what we can see on the outside. The way they act, the way that they live, who their friends are, and so much more. We think that that tells us all that we need to know about someone, but not exactly. See, we can know a lot about a person, but we actually don't really know them personally. There's a really good chance that there's more to the story of the people around us, that more than what we see on the outside, or more than what we assume we know. Because here's what I know is true, and if you're taking notes tonight, or you want to just keep these key points in your head, is this: everybody has a story. Every single one of us has a story. And in each and every person that we think we know, there's even more to the story than we see. And if we really, really want to know someone, we have to understand where they come from. That's why I played the clip of the Black Panther, because right away, the narrator tells the story of where the Black Panther originated from, how Wakanda came to be. We have to see more than just what is on the outside. We have to understand the person, their experiences, their beliefs, what matters to them, and more of what makes them who they really are. And you probably know what I'm talking about because you have this. You have a story. You have your own experiences in what matters to you and what makes up who you are. You know that in your own life, because there's more to your story. And you want the people around you to know more about you and to know more about that story. For example, maybe you got angry and yelled at your sibling this week, and you found yourself thinking, oh, she'd understand if she only knew the friend drama I was going through this week. Or maybe you turn in a late assignment. You turn it in late, and you think, oh, my teacher would be way more understanding of why my assignment is turned in late if only she knew our power got shut off and our Wi-Fi broke. Or maybe you stopped texting a friend back and thought, they have no idea what I'm going through right now, because if they did, they would know why I'm not responding. Anyone ever feel misunderstood by parents? Raise your hand. Yeah, or misunderstood in general, but especially by parents. You go to tell your mom or your dad or your grandma or aunt or uncle your side of the story of what happened, but they cut you off, and immediately you're grounded and you're disciplined. And you're like, what the heck? I didn't even get to share my side of the story. But you see what I mean? The stuff that you're going through and experiencing, you just wish other people would consider that before they cut you off and make an assumption. That's your backstory. It's what you're dealing with, and it's what you're currently going through. And if you're anything like me, you wish that people would try and understand a little bit more of that story from time to time. But the reality is that we rarely consider the backstories of other people. We rarely consider what's going on in their life. We don't often stop to consider where they're coming from. And because of that, we don't really get the opportunity to know someone, know that person personally. And Jesus, he gives us a great example to follow. So over the past couple of weeks, we're in week 3 of It's Personal. We've been looking at this cool story from Jesus' life. So a couple thousand years ago, Jesus was traveling through ancient Israel to a place called what? Does anyone remember? Starts with a J. Not Jerusalem. Nope. You got Jericho. Good job. So Jesus was traveling through this place called Jericho, and Jericho was home to a well-known bad guy. He had not a great reputation. Does anyone remember his name? Starts with a Z. Close. Zacchaeus? Is that what you're saying? I think. Oh, it's on the screen. Great. Awesome. You guys could have warned me. Well, we learned that Zacchaeus was a tax collector, which basically meant that he cheated all of his neighbors and friends out for money so that he can keep that wealth and status for himself. So even though his reputation was rough, when he heard Jesus was in town in Jericho, Zacchaeus went out and he made an effort to see him. He wanted to catch just a glimpse of Jesus so much that he climbed the tree. And if you guys have been here the past 2 weeks, I had this beautiful tree that I actually chopped down myself and I brought it in here. And it's gone. So anyways. Do you have to tell them? Okay, it was a ladder with leaves on it. Yeah, you got me. Whatever. But anyways, it was a cute tree. Yeah, sure. Anyways, Zacchaeus climbed this tree just so he can see what Jesus looked like, because Jesus was really popular at the time. And what was crazy is that out of this huge crowd that he was in, Jesus noticed Zacchaeus, little short guy, in the tree. And not only that, Jesus walked to this tree. He walked to Zacchaeus. He called Zacchaeus by his name, Zacchaeus, okay? And Zacchaeus is like, me? Like, I didn't know you knew me. And he told him, get down from that tree. Come here. And why did he tell them that? Well, it was for a reason that no one had expected. Jesus wanted to hang out with the well-known bad guy, right? He had a bad reputation. But Jesus wanted to hang out with Zacchaeus. He wanted to spend quality time with him, and he wanted to get to know him. And he didn't want to just get to know him anywhere. He didn't say, Zacchaeus, come with me to Dutch Bros or Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A just for like 2 hours. No, Jesus wanted to go to Zacchaeus' home, the place he came from. Take a look at this. In Luke chapter 19, verses 5 to 6, it says, when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. Jesus wanted to hang out with Zacchaeus. He wasn't satisfied with only knowing about Zacchaeus. He wanted to take the step of going right to where Zacchaeus lived. He really, really wanted to get to know Zacchaeus as a person. And you see, there's something about where we live that says a lot about who we are. Because where we live usually is the place that we feel most comfortable, and where we live is usually the place where we can let our guard down, and where we live, we really can just be ourselves, right? We can be in our pajamas and not care what anyone thinks of us, because it's where we live. It's where our guard is down and where we're most comfortable. Or for some of you, it might be your phone. How many of you guys have a phone? Nice. And if you're on your phone, get off of your phone, okay? But most of you guys have a phone. And some, now, in this day and age where you guys are at, your phones are so important to you, and they are way closer to you, and you treasure them probably more than your house. I just heard a phone go off. Nice. So, anyways, you take your phone with you wherever you go. And when you leave it, you lose it or misplace it or forget it, you just freak out. Anyone, sometimes if my phone is gone, I'm like, where the heck did that thing go? Did anyone freak out when their phone is just gone and you're like, I need it? Why? Because everything about you is practically on your phone. It lives on your phone. If you've got your Netflix and Disney Plus login, it probably lives in your notes. Or important things you need to remember is on your reminders. You've got social media to keep up with. You have people to text back. You have to play Temple Run or Among Us. Do you guys know what Temple Run is? Yeah. Oh, you guys do? Okay. It was a lot more popular when I was your age, so I was just wondering. But Among Us, you have to play these games and keep up. You got to check your grades on your phone, right? Your phone is something that is so personal to you. But for Zacchaeus, Jesus was like, hey, let me come over to your house. Can you imagine Jesus might be like, hey, can I borrow your phone to get to know you better? And you're like, no. Would anyone give Jesus their phone? Raise your hand. Be honest. You would give Jesus your phone. No big deal. 4 days without your phone. You guys are good? Amazing. All right. I'll make sure to tell him. Just kidding. But most of you, honestly, if that were me, I'd probably be like, no thanks. I kind of need that. That's something really personal. Everything that I need to know is probably on that phone. Everything I do, sometimes our world becomes our phone. But Jesus wanted to make it super personal with Zacchaeus. And sure, he already knew everything about Zacchaeus, but he still decided to take a step into his world, to get to know him. Jesus made it personal with Zacchaeus when he took a step to understand where Zacchaeus lived. And visiting Zacchaeus' home meant that Jesus would get to know him more personally. Jesus would get a glimpse into Zacchaeus' story based off of where he lived. And of course, Jesus already knew his story because he was Jesus. But when Jesus went to his home, it got a whole lot personal for Zacchaeus. Because where we live isn't just some physical address. It's a place that gives others a glimpse into our world, into our personal situation and circumstances, into our day-to-day lives. Where we live is part of who we are. It's part of our story. It's the part that most people typically don't see either. And what's cool is that what Jesus did for Zacchaeus was an example of something that Jesus does for you and for me. While he may have walked into just one man's house that day, it gives us a small glimpse into the way God stepped into all of our lives when he chose to send his son Jesus to earth. The God who created the universe stepped into our world to understand where we come from, to show us how much he cares, and to understand every single one of our stories in a real and personal way. And here's the main point for tonight. It's personal because Jesus understands your story. He knows you because he knows your heart. Nothing is hidden from Jesus. In fact, he knows your story and where you come from better than you do. And he loves you no matter what that story looks like. It's personal because Jesus understands your story. And if we're going to be personal with others and our friends, then we have to choose to understand their stories, just like Jesus does for us. And there are 3 things that we can do to experience Jesus in this way more personally. So here's the first one. For some of us, our first step might be just to get to know who Jesus is, to get to know Jesus. And the truth is, he already knows you, whether you know him or not. But you might need to then invite him into your story because he wants to be a part of your life in a real and personal way. And you can talk with your small group leader or a trusted friend, or you can come up to me and you can ask, hey, what does it look like? What does it mean to follow Jesus? And here's the second thing. If you know Jesus, your next step might be to share your story. Your next step is to share more of your story with someone who might not know Jesus, or someone who's interested and wants to get to know Jesus. You have the opportunity to share your story. Because what if you started to share a little bit more about where you come from? What if you told them a little bit more of your day-to-day life, what your life is really like? What if you told them about how you came to know Jesus? If you opened up to share your story. Because when you share your story, other people will know that it's safe to then share their story with you. When you share a little bit about what you're living through right now, it can give someone else the courage to do the same thing. And when someone does share their story with you, here's the third thing that you can do. Choose to listen well and ask questions to learn more. Because when you show someone that you care by listening well and wanting to know more, you show them just how important they are and how important their story is. Just imagine getting the opportunity to share your story and listen to the stories of your neighbors, of your teammates, of the people who you go to school with, the people here in your small groups at church, you would start seeing people for who they really are instead of who you think they are. You'd become known as a person who really cares, a person that people can trust, a person who wants to know people in a personal and real way. Get that opportunity to do in your small group. It's a place where you can ask questions, where you can listen well and hear one another's stories. And you can share your story with them too. So remember, it's personal because Jesus understands your story. Everyone say, Jesus knows my story. Say it, 1, 2, 3. Jesus knows my story. Wow, that was a lot better than I expected. Good job. As you guys head into your small groups right now, I want you to think about this. What is one thing that most people don't really know about me? Maybe you can share that tonight. What's one thing most people don't really know about me? So we're going to head into small group, and you guys are going to talk about your stories. Sound good? Sure. All right, let's pray, and then you guys can go. God, thank you for being personal with us. Thank you that you just know us well, that you listen to us well, that you give us a story to tell other people. And would you help us to do the same to others, to choose to listen well and ask questions as we get to know one another. God, we love you and we praise you for who you are. Amen. All right, find your small group leader and go to small group.